friend recently moved into a new flat and was quite perplexed by the unusual setup in her neighbor's garden. The initial description simply labeled it as crazy, leaving much to the imagination. An image, central to the original query but not provided here, apparently showed a distinctive and somewhat elaborate arrangement. Based on a key detail presumably visible in that image, one commenter offered a very specific suggestion about its purpose. What could this uniquely landscaped or structured garden space actually be designed for? Without the direct visual aid of the photograph, we rely on the insightful solution provided. Is that just a crazy habitat for the tiny pet tortoise in the middle? This strongly implies that the neighbor's garden has been intentionally transformed into a specialized and possibly quite elaborate enclosure or environment specifically tailored to meet the needs of a pet tortoise. Such a habitat would typically include features crucial for a tortoise's well-being, such as secure perimeter fencing to prevent escape, a shallow water dish for soaking and hydration, a sheltered area, or artificial hide for protection from extreme weather and for sleeping, a suitable substrate like soil or sand for digging or burrowing, depending on the tortoise species, and a carefully curated selection of safe, non-toxic plants for grazing. The term crazy might refer to particularly intricate landscaping, miniature decorative structures, or an exceptionally dedicated and comprehensive setup designed to mimic the tortoise's natural environment as closely as possible. During a protest, a law enforcement officer was observed positioned on a rooftop, utilizing a device described as scanner-like. This device was seen to be emitting a green laser beam, which was apparently being directed towards specific individuals within the crowd gathered below. The use of a laser in such a dynamic and potentially volatile public order situation immediately raises questions about its function and intended purpose. What is this piece of equipment, and why would police employ it in a crowd control or monitoring scenario? This device is identified as likely being a laser target designator or a high-power green laser pointer, primarily employed for the purpose of target identification and enhancing coordination between officers in different positions. From an elevated vantage point, such as a rooftop, an officer often has a superior overview of a crowd, making it easier to observe, track, and identify specific individuals within a large and moving group. The officer on the rooftop could be using the highly visible green laser beam to paint or momentarily illuminate a person of interest, perhaps an individual engaging in unlawful activities, inciting violence, recognized as a known agitator, or a key figure for monitoring, thereby enabling ground-based police units to more easily locate, monitor, and potentially approach or apprehend that individual. The bright green laser is chosen for its high visibility, even in daylight conditions, providing a clear and unambiguous pointing reference for coordinated action. It's crucial to understand this is for designation and communication, not as a direct force application or sniper system in this context. While out for a walk with their dogs, one of the canine companions proudly presented this black plastic object to its owner. Upon closer inspection, the item was found to contain 2 AA batteries. However, the object itself exhibits no obvious functionality, lacking any discernible buttons, switches, lights, or any clear indication of its intended purpose. The owner, perhaps unwisely, has since been allowing the dog to chew on it, a situation that now, understandably, causes concern given the presence of batteries. What could this enigmatic, battery-powered, yet seemingly non-functional plastic item actually be? The precise identity of this specific black plastic object, powered by AA batteries but displaying no apparent function, is not explicitly determined by the somewhat sarcastic solution provided. Well, that's excellent. Glad I've been letting the dog chew it then. However, such finds are common. It could very well be a dismembered part of a larger electronic device that has broken, such as a fragment of a discarded children's toy where the main interactive elements are missing, a broken remote control unit, a defunct novelty flashlight or decorative light, or any number of simple, inexpensive battery-operated gadgets. Often, once the primary function of such an item is lost due to damage or the absence of other essential components, the remaining shell can appear entirely purposeless. The paramount concern in this scenario is undoubtedly the safety of the dog, as chewing on items containing batteries can lead to the ingestion of caustic and harmful chemicals or pose a choking hazard. During a visit to a beach in the popular tourist destination of Naples, Florida, an individual had an unfortunate and startling encounter. They were bitten by a lizard. An identification of the species involved is now sought, presumably to understand more about the creature and any potential concerns related to the bite. What species of lizard, commonly found in this South Florida region, might exhibit such defensive behavior if disturbed or threatened? The lizard encountered on the Naples, Florida beach, which was responsible for the bite, is identified as a Cuban night anole, Anolis equestris. The night anole is a notably large and robust species of anole lizard. While native to Cuba, it has become a well-established introduced species throughout much of South Florida, thriving in its warm, humid climate. These lizards are quite striking in appearance, known for their potential to reach impressive sizes. Males can be up to 13 to 20 inches in total length, including their long tails. Their remarkable ability to change color from a vibrant, bright green to a duller brownish gray for camouflage or thermoregulation, and their distinctively casqued or somewhat helmet-like heads. Although not typically aggressive towards humans, Cuban night anoles are territorial creatures and can, and will, deliver a surprisingly strong and painful bite with their powerful jaws if they feel threatened, are cornered, or are improperly handled. An observer encounters a somewhat imposing, self-contained structure that, due to its enclosed, modern, and perhaps slightly utilitarian or even futuristic design, elicits comparisons with a nuclear shelter, or more fantastically, a suicide booth from science fiction. The question is posed, what is this modern, often metallic, pod-like structure actually intended for in a public space? This structure is identified as a JC-Deco public bathroom, more commonly referred to as an automated public toilet, APT. JC-Deco is a large multinational corporation renowned for its extensive portfolio of street furniture, outdoor advertising systems, including bus shelters and digital billboards, public bicycle rental programs, and, significantly, these advanced, self-cleaning automated public toilets. These units are frequently installed in urban centers, tourist areas, and transport hubs to provide convenient public restroom facilities. A key feature of many JC-Deco toilets is their automated cleaning cycle, which typically activates after each user exits and the door closes. During this cycle, the interior of the cabin may rotate, or a system of water jets and disinfectants engages to thoroughly clean and sanitize the toilet bowl, floor, and other surfaces, ensuring it is hygienic and ready for the next user. Their robust, often sleek and somewhat pod-like or modular design can indeed give them an appearance distinct from traditional public restrooms, leading to such imaginative, if slightly off-mark, comparisons. During a home renovation project in Montreal, Quebec, an object was discovered that was sufficiently alarming and suspicious in nature to prompt an immediate call to the local bomb squad. The specific details or appearance of the object are not provided in this particular snippet of text, but the mere involvement of explosive ordnance disposal, EOD, experts speaks volumes about the perceived level of danger and the potential nature of the find. What kind of potentially hazardous item might be commonly unearthed during such construction or excavation work that would necessitate such an urgent response? While the exact nature of the unearthed item isn't specified in the provided solution, which is simply an excited and concerned request for an update from other Redditors, you update us on this at some point. I think everyone here wants to know the end result. The context of summoning the bomb squad strongly and unequivocally implies that the object is suspected unexploded ordnance, UXO. This broad term encompasses various types of old military munitions, such as artillery shells, grenades, mortars, aerial bombs, landmines, or other explosive devices that were fired, dropped, launched, or otherwise emplaced, but failed to detonate as intended during a past conflict or military training exercise. Renovation projects, construction work, and excavations, particularly in older urban areas or regions with a history of military activity, like former battlefields or training ranges, can sometimes unearth these dangerous historical relics. Such items can remain volatile and extremely hazardous for many decades, even centuries, necessitating expert handling, assessment, and disposal by specialized EOD or bomb squad personnel to prevent accidental detonation and potential casualties. Discovered by a hiker while trekking in the Alps, This object is described as a weird, screw-looking thing. It is made of metal and appears to be robustly constructed, suggesting a mechanical or possibly military origin, rather than being a simple common fastener. Given the historical context of the Alps as a region that has seen significant military activity and conflicts over the centuries, what could this precisely engineered metal item be? This weird screw-looking thing found by a hiker in the Alps is identified as a time delay fuse, a critical and sophisticated component from an artillery shell or a tank shell. A fuse is an intricate mechanical or electronic device designed to initiate the detonation of the main explosive charge contained within a projectile, such as an artillery round or a bomb. Time delay fuses are specifically engineered to cause the shell to explode a predetermined and precisely set amount of time after it has been fired from the weapon, rather than detonating immediately upon impact with the target. This capability provides various tactical advantages, such as achieving airbursts, where the shell detonates above the target to shower a wide area with shrapnel, or allowing the shell to penetrate a hardened target or structure before exploding inside. These fuses are precision-engineered components of military ammunition. Finding one, especially in a region like the Alps, which has been the site of past military conflicts and training exercises, can be extremely dangerous, as it might still contain sensitive explosive elements or be unstable due to age and exposure. Such items should never be handled, and their discovery should be reported immediately to local authorities or police. An individual possesses an item that their father refers to simply as his brass knuckles. However, upon closer and more considered examination, taking into account the presence of an engraving and a distinct slot, presumably for a blade, the finder has come to suspect that it could actually be the grip component from a World War I era trench knife. They are seeking opinions on this potential identification. What are the thoughts on this intriguing, weapon-like artifact? The finder's suspicion is decisively confirmed with the succinct response, exactly what it is. This item is indeed the handguard and grip portion from a World War I trench knife. Trench knives from that brutal conflict were specifically designed for the grim realities of close-quarters combat in the trenches, and many designs, particularly American models like the M1917 or M1918 knuckle duster knives, famously incorporated a robust brass knuckle-style handguard directly into the grip. This feature served a dual purpose. It protected the user's hand during combat and also provided an additional blunt force impact weapon. The prominent slot observed would have been where the knife's steel blade was originally mounted. Engravings were sometimes present either as manufacturer's marks, unit designations, or occasionally personalizations by the soldier. Many such grips exist today as military collectibles, sometimes having been separated from their original blades over the decades or sold as surplus components after the war. Received as a gift, or perhaps as a family heirloom from a grandfather, this very heavy object has the distinct appearance of a mortar shell. The finder is presumably, and quite rightly, concerned about its safety and is seeking confirmation of its identity and the potential hazard it might pose. What is this heavy, projectile-like object that has been kept as a souvenir? This item was tragically and alarmingly confirmed to be a live, armed mortar shell. The crucial update provided in the original Reddit thread reveals the extreme and immediate danger the finder was unknowingly in. Update: the bomb was armed. The Swedish bomb squad has taken care of it. Thanks to every single one of you for warning me. You possibly saved my life. Aesir, pictures of the police. This stark incident powerfully underscores the critical importance of never handling, tampering with, or keeping suspected military ordnance as souvenirs. Mortar shells are explosive projectiles designed to be fired from a mortar tube and are engineered to detonate on impact or via a fuse mechanism. Old military munitions, even those that appear inert or have been kept for decades, can remain highly volatile and extremely dangerous. If such an item is ever found or inherited, it should not be touched or moved under any circumstances. The local police or a specialized bomb disposal unit must be contacted immediately to ensure its safe assessment and professional disposal. Discovered embedded within a wall during the renovation of a 100-year-old home, these are clearly identifiable as glass goggles. Their age, inferred from the age of the house, and their location suggest they were likely used by workers during the original construction of the home, or perhaps during subsequent modifications or repairs in a bygone era. What was the probable purpose of these antique protective eyewear? These are identified as old safety goggles, likely with their original elastic or leather strap having disintegrated or been removed over time. Given their discovery concealed within the wall of such an old house, they were almost certainly used by craftsmen, laborers, or tradesmen for eye protection during various construction or repair tasks that were common in that period. Specific activities could have included hazardous work like brazing or soldering plumbing pipes, which produces intense light, molten metal spatter, and sparks, grinding metal components, chipping stone or mortar during masonry work, extensive woodworking that generated significant sawdust and debris, or other industrial or building tasks that posed a risk of eye injury from flying particles, dust, or intense light. Early safety goggles often featured robust glass lenses set into simple but durable frames made of metal, leather, or bakelite, providing essential eye protection for workers in a multitude of trades before the advent of more modern materials and sophisticated goggle designs. A rather peculiar belt-driven contraption is observed to be attached to the rear wheel of a Chevrolet Bolt, which is notably an all-electric vehicle, EV. The device itself bears a strong resemblance to a standard automotive alternator, a component typically found in vehicles with internal combustion engines. What is this device, and what could possibly be the rationale behind such an unusual and seemingly counterintuitive modification to an electric car? The device indeed looks very much like an automotive alternator. An alternator, in a conventional gasoline or diesel vehicle, is driven by the engine via a belt, and its primary function is to generate electricity to charge the car's 12-volt battery and to power the vehicle's various electrical systems while the engine is running. However, its application to the driven wheel of an all-electric vehicle like a Chevy Bolt, presumably with the misguided intention of recharging the EV's main high-voltage traction battery as the car moves, is fundamentally flawed. The commenter correctly and astutely notes that anyone doing this with the idea that they're going to extend range or generate more energy lacks an understanding of how these things work. Trying to use an alternator, which itself consumes energy to operate due to friction and electromagnetic drag, driven by the vehicle's own motion via the wheel, to then recharge its primary batteries, would inevitably result in a net energy loss. This is due to inherent mechanical and electrical inefficiencies in the system, friction in bearings, belt slippage, heat loss in wiring, and energy conversion losses, essentially attempting to violate the second law of thermodynamics. It represents an ill-conceived and ultimately futile attempt at creating a perpetual motion machine or a misguided effort to extend the EV's driving range. Within a newly opened pack of No. 7 Special cigarettes, peculiar odd yellow, seemingly liquid-filled, or at least translucent and shiny balls were discovered. These were found embedded directly among the tobacco shreds rather than being contained within the cigarette's filter itself. These spheres are described as being definitively not menthol capsules, as they are very hard and cannot be broken or crushed with finger pressure. What could these small, resilient yellow balls incorporated into the cigarettes be? These yellow hard spheres are identified as ion exchange resin beads. In some more specialized or experimental cigarette filter designs, or perhaps as an additive directly within the tobacco blend itself, as seems to be the case here, though unusual, these tiny beads are incorporated with the claimed intention of selectively removing certain harmful chemical components from the tobacco smoke as it is drawn through the cigarette during inhalation. Ion exchange resins are specialized polymers that are designed to exchange particular ions with other ions present in a solution or gas that passes through or over them. In the context of cigarette smoke, which is a complex aerosol containing thousands of chemicals, these resins might be targeted to absorb or chemically react with specific toxic compounds such as hydrogen cyanide, various aldehydes, or certain heavy metal ions, thereby theoretically reducing the smoker's intake of these harmful substances. Their presence directly within the tobacco portion, rather than being concentrated in a dedicated filter section, is atypical, but still points towards an attempt by the manufacturer at an enhanced or targeted filtration of the smoke. A friend of the Inquirer observed an unidentified aquatic creature swimming and was curious about its species. The image, which is not provided in this text snippet, but would have been crucial for the original identification on Reddit, would depict a fish-like animal exhibiting particular physical characteristics. Based on the solution, what marine creature was likely spotted? Based on the provided and rather cheerful solution, Shovelnose ray, the creature observed swimming is identified as a shovelnose ray, more commonly and accurately known in ichthyology as a shovelnose guitarfish, belonging to the genus Rhinobatos, or similar genera within the Rhinobatidae family. These are a fascinating group of cartilaginous fish. They possess a unique body form that shares characteristics with both sharks, exhibiting a shark-like tail and dorsal fins, and rays, having a generally flattened body and large pectoral fins that are fused to the sides of the head, resembling wings. Their most distinctive and namesake feature is their elongated, flattened, and broadly rounded or shovel-shaped snout, which they use to probe sandy or muddy bottoms for prey. Shovelnose guitarfish are typically bottom-dwelling inhabitants of warm temperate and tropical coastal marine waters worldwide, often found in shallow, sandy, or muddy habitats like bays and estuaries, where they feed primarily on small fish, crustaceans, mollusks, and other benthic invertebrates. These cryptic symbols or sigils were drawn, apparently overnight, at an apartment complex. They appeared on both a garage door and the front door belonging to the same residence, suggesting a targeted act. The sudden and deliberate appearance of these specific markings indicates a clear intention on the part of the perpetrator. What do these symbols, likely drawn from occult or folk magic traditions, signify? These drawn symbols are identified as types of magical wards or sigils, intended to invoke supernatural effects. According to the information provided in the original solution, the symbol on the right is suggested to be a form of protection ward. Such wards are traditionally designed and employed to safeguard a location, such as a home or property, or its occupants from harm, negative energies, evil spirits, or misfortune. Conversely, the first symbol, located on the left, is identified, based on information from a referenced website, as a banishment ward. Banishment wards are specifically intended to repel, drive away, cast out, or prevent the entry of unwanted entities, spirits, negative influences, or even specific individuals. Wards are symbols, inscriptions, or sometimes objects believed to possess inherent magical powers or to act as conduits for invoking supernatural aid or protection. Their appearance in this context clearly indicates that someone is attempting to apply occult or folk magic practices, either for what they perceive as the protection of the residents or, more ominously, as a magically charged act directed against them, for reasons that remain unknown to the observers. While rewatching the acclaimed and historically detailed World War II miniseries Band of Brothers, a recurring visual detail is observed among the American paratroopers. Many soldiers have a specific, somewhat bulky item strapped to the outside of their helmets. This piece of gear appears to be standard issue and is prominently and consistently displayed across different characters and scenes. What is this commonly carried item that soldiers in the series frequently have attached to their helmets for quick access? The items strapped to the soldiers' helmets in the Band of Brothers miniseries are identified as field dressings. A field dressing is a pre-packaged, sterile wound dressing, typically consisting of a thick, absorbent gauze pad attached to a roll of conforming bandage. These were standard issue for soldiers in World War II and many other conflicts, and were designed for the immediate emergency treatment of battlefield injuries, primarily to control severe bleeding by direct pressure, and to cover and protect open wounds to prevent infection until more comprehensive medical attention could be provided by a medic or at an aid station. Soldiers commonly carried one or more of these dressings in easily accessible locations, such as strapped to their helmets, often secured under the camouflage netting, in dedicated first aid pouches on their web gear, or in a readily reachable pocket, so that they could be quickly applied either to themselves or to a wounded comrade in the critical moments following an injury in combat. Discovered at the site of a house, this electronic device, with its visible wires and potential connection points, has immediately raised suspicions of covert surveillance or eavesdropping. The finder is understandably curious about its exact nature and is even considering how its functionality might be tested, though caution is advised. What is this suspicious electronic item, and what does its presence potentially imply? This device strongly appears to be a telephone bug, which is a type of covert listening device specifically designed to intercept and transmit or record telephone conversations without the knowledge or consent of the parties involved. Such devices are typically connected directly to the telephone line, often illicitly tapping into the wiring either inside or outside the premises. The commenter in the original thread suggests a method for testing its functionality, which should be approached with extreme caution and full awareness of legal implications. One could potentially try to disconnect one of the two wires in a home's telephone outlet, then carefully connect the bug's alligator clips to the disconnected wire and its corresponding terminal. Since many older, simpler bugs transmitted their intercepted audio via FM radio frequencies, tuning an FM radio to the lower end of the broadcast band while the targeted telephone is off the hook might allow the user to hear the dial tone or any conversation if the bug is active and transmitting within range. The small hole or screw on the device's box might be for tuning the transmission frequency. The presence of such a device clearly indicates an attempt at unauthorized surveillance. Found in an office bathroom, this personal item's identity is sought by the finder, who is presumably unfamiliar with its purpose. The context of an office bathroom makes its discovery somewhat unusual and potentially embarrassing for the owner, as it is a device for a very private activity. What is this object? This item is identified with a disclaimer of "no joke" as a foreskin restoration tool. Foreskin restoration is a non-surgical process undertaken by some circumcised individuals who wish to regenerate or recreate a structure resembling a natural foreskin. This is typically achieved by applying continuous, gentle, and prolonged tension to the existing skin of the penile shaft. This sustained tension stimulates cell division and gradual skin growth, a biological process known as tissue expansion. Various specialized devices are designed and marketed for this purpose. They often involve soft silicone grippers to hold the skin and some form of tensioning mechanism using weights, elastic straps, or air pressure to apply the necessary stretching force. The comment that it may have been left due to the long hours one has to wear them, and I hear they can be uncomfortable, alludes to the significant time commitment required for the process, often many hours per day over months or years, and the potential for discomfort, perhaps explaining why such a personal device might have been temporarily removed and accidentally left behind in an office restroom. Discovered under a bed, this simple plastic tube's specific purpose is unclear to the finder. However, its appearance, likely a flexible, clear, or translucent tube of a particular diameter, possibly with connectors at one or both ends, hints at a potential connection to medical equipment or a personal healthcare device. What is this plastic tube typically used for? This plastic tube is identified as being a component from a nebulizer. A nebulizer is a common medical device that is used to convert liquid medication into a very fine mist or aerosol, which can then be easily and effectively inhaled by the patient directly into their lungs. Nebulizers are frequently prescribed by doctors for the treatment of a variety of respiratory conditions, including asthma, chronic obstructive pulmonary disease, COPD, cystic fibrosis, bronchitis, and other lung ailments that benefit from targeted medication delivery to the airways. The flexible plastic tubing is an essential part of the nebulizer system. It connects the nebulizer machine itself, which usually contains an air compressor or an ultrasonic vibrating element, to the medication cup, where the liquid medicine is placed, and then from the medication cup to a mouthpiece or a face mask, through which the patient inhales the therapeutic aerosolized medication. Finding a piece of nebulizer tubing under a bed suggests that someone in the household uses or has recently used this type of medical device for respiratory treatment. If you love uncovering strange and mysterious objects, hit that like button and subscribe. Stay curious. More finds coming soon.